Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Here we are. One entire year has gone by since the COVID coronavirus pandemic began. Do you remember a year ago when all of a sudden there was this virus spreading all over the world? No one knew what to expect and people were panicking. What were the things that people stockpiled because they were in a panic? Do you even remember a year ago going to the store, the shelves were bare and people were accused of hoarding? What were the things that people bought back then, and are those things that were useful over this last year, and do you think it's something you should continue to stockpile? Well, the very first one was toilet paper. When you think about it, when you go to the store, it's not like you buy one roll, you buy a big old pack. So of course there's not going to be as many big old packs of toilet paper as there are going to be cans of chili on the shelf. They simply don't fit. It only makes sense if people were buying toilet paper, they were told to stay home. Nobody knew for sure for how long or how dangerous it was going to be. I've always told my family, you're lucky you were related to me, because to me, love means never running out of toilet paper. No one who's ever lived in my house ever went into the bathroom and there wasn't toilet paper available. I think a lot of people bought it up because they have those horrible memories of maybe sometime there wasn't enough, and so of course they wanted to have enough. Most of us as preppers already have things like toilet paper in our stockpile. We're not afraid of running out in the short term, but if you go to the store and you know that you may have to stay home for a long time and you see those things, of course you're going to pick up another pack. Why not? It's just sensible. Remember, it was supposed to be stay home for 14 days to flatten the curve. Here we are 365 days later, and guess what? I don't know if we flattened the curve. I don't know what to believe when I read what's in the newspaper or watch it on the news. We get conflicting reports of what's safe, what's not safe, if we can go out, if we can't go out. Different places still are under lockdowns, shutdowns, businesses are still closed. Things are still limited on what you can buy. So if you did grab toilet paper at the beginning of the pandemic, yes, it's probably something you should continue to stockpile. Don't ever let your stock of toilet paper run down to your very last roll. Because remember, love means never running out of toilet paper. Along with toilet paper, I like to stockpile also Kleenex and paper towels, because it's cold and flu season whether it's a pandemic or not. It's allergy season. I'm always using a Kleenex because I have a runny, stuffy nose most of the time. And so Kleenex is something that I also keep on hand. Paper towels aren't something that I used to use nearly as much as I did in the last year, but just with the cleanliness concerns that we've had over the last year, I found myself using more of them. It probably wasn't necessary because I really wasn't going anywhere, so I probably wasn't spreading anything extra on my counter, but I did end up using more paper towels in the last year than probably any other year in my life. Grocery store shelves were cleared of food at the beginning of the pandemic, but think about it. People were told to stay home, so they're no longer going to restaurants. Children are no longer eating at school. People need to have the foods that they want. And if you're eating now 3 meals a day at home rather than just a few throughout the week, of course you're going to need to stockpile more food from the grocery store. That just makes sense. A lot of us already had a lot of food on hand in our prepper pantry, but it was still a good idea whenever you went to the store or had the opportunity to order more to continue to build your stockpile. That way you can rotate what you have and replenish. Yes, you could do takeout and delivery from restaurants, but is that really the best way to be spending your dollars when the future is uncertain, the economy looks to be in bad shape, and so many people are going without the foods that they need because they no longer have an income? Kids aren't getting their lunches at school that were provided as free and reduced lunches. Look at the lines at food banks. Did it make sense to stock up on food? Absolutely. Having enough food on hand for yourself, your family, and those that you truly care about just makes sense. Maybe you're like me and you did continue to pick up a few meals at restaurants simply because we know that the restaurant workers, the owners, are suffering because they're losing their income. Their businesses are in jeopardy, and we try to do what we can to help and support those around us in our neighborhood. Hand sanitizer, it used to be cheap. You could pick up big old bottles at the Dollar Tree, and all of a sudden you couldn't find it anywhere, or if you could, you had to pay a fortune for a tiny small bottle. Many of those bottles then turned out to be recalled. They didn't have the correct sanitizer in them. They needed to be at least 60% alcohol, and some of them just didn't have it. I found, yes, I did already have some in my stockpile. I was glad that I did. I also had some alcohol and some aloe vera gel, so I was able to make more. But then I realized I'm not really leaving my home, so I don't really need to worry about using hand sanitizer in my home on a daily basis. You just need to continue to wash your hands with soap and water. When you're not going out anywhere, the need for things like hand sanitizer is just not as vital as people who need to go out, like essential workers that need to be out in the public. No one really knew about what this coronavirus COVID-19 was, and I know I personally did a whole bunch of research on immune boosters. What could I do to protect myself, make myself be as healthy as possible? And yes, I did some research. I found some things that some doctors recommended, things that I thought studies that were well done, and I bought an array of supplements. And after a few days of taking them at the recommended dosage, I found myself laying awake at night with a pounding heart, thinking this cannot be good for me. And so I stopped taking them. What we need to do is be sensible about our health. Get the vitamins and minerals you need from the foods that you eat. Take the best care of your health, and then you don't need to worry about trying to get supplements to make sure that you're boosting your immune system. The healthier life that you live, the healthier your immune system is going to be. People were stocking up on over-the-counter medicines, fever reducers, cough remedies. That's just smart to have on hand anyway, because there are all kinds of reasons why you might have a headache, a fever, muscle aches, a cough, besides just in the middle of a pandemic. So having a day-to-day supply of everyday over-the-counter remedies just makes sense. Thermometers were sold out. Guess what? Thermometers are a great thing to have on hand anyway. So if you didn't have one before and this pandemic caused you to get one, that's a good idea. I also bought a finger pulse oximeter. One of the complications was infecting your lungs and not being able to get enough breath. And so knowing if you're really breathing appropriately and if you're getting the amount that you need was important to me. I've used my finger pulse oximeter a few times over the last year and discovered, yes, I'm perfectly fine. I just needed to calm down because the rhetoric that we're hearing in the news is alarming. Cleaning supplies. It was impossible to get things like Lysol, wet wipes, Clorox. And as time went on, dish soap, dishwasher detergent, and laundry soap were in short supply. Those are items we use all the time, so it just makes sense to make sure that you have extra on hand of the cleaning supplies that you count on using on a day-to-day basis. Don't stock up on different kind of cleaners out of fear. Stock up on the ones that you want so that you can keep your home to the standards and the cleanliness that you like. Wet wipes and baby wipes are great for personal hygiene. There are all kinds of reasons why you may not have running water, why you are maybe out in your car and you need something to clean up sticky hands. Being able to use a wet wipe that's ready to go to help keep you clean is just a great idea to have on hand, whether it's coronavirus or any kind of an emergency. PPE, the personal protective equipment. Who knew we'd be wearing masks, face shields, gloves? There are all kinds of things that people have needed, and especially those who work in healthcare. If you go to the store, in many communities, it's still required that you wear a face mask. I always had some kind of face coverings and face masks in my supply for emergencies because you just never know what was going to happen. Did I think I'd be using them all up in a pandemic? No. So if you can continue to find the actual medical grade ones or the N95s, it's always nice to have them, even if on a day-to-day basis you're using ones that are fur cloth or fabric that you purchased or made yourself. It's always a good idea to have medical grade things in case someone in your family does become sick. I've always been concerned with the forest fires that are in my area, and I've had a few volcanic eruptions near me in my life, and I want a way to protect myself the best that I can. It may not be perfect, but it's better than nothing. Water sold out in the stores. We know that we need to keep water on hand. You don't have to buy water in the store, but if you don't have any, pick it up a little at a time and bring it home. You need to have at least 1 gallon per person per day for as many days as possible. If there's 4 people in your family, you need 4 gallons for every single day, and that is the absolute bare minimum. If you can have 2 to 3 gallons per person per day, you're going to be far better off, because you're going to need to use water for hygiene, you're going to need to use it for cooking and food preparation, and you need to be able to have a way to clean up your dishes a little bit. Rather than just buying disposable water containers, spend a little extra, go down to the camping and the sporting goods and get some sturdy water storage containers, ones that you can fill up yourself. You need to sanitize them, clean them out to make sure there's nothing funky in them from when they were manufactured, and then fill them with water. If the water from your tap is safe to drink, it's safe to fill the water storage containers. Then you can put that water aside and have it for whatever the future holds. I think if we look back at the things that people grabbed out of the store, took home, were accused of hoarding, most of those were things that most of us used throughout the year. So it did make sense to buy some of those things. What are the takeaways that I have from the last year? Don't be complacent. Don't take things for granted. Know that you are still in charge of yourself to make sure that you have the things you need. The government is not here for you. You are not a priority in an emergency. Prepping is a lifestyle choice. It's not for an event or a one-time occurrence or a time to time. It's a lifestyle so that you make sure you're providing the things that you need no matter what the future brings. Because guess what? We're all going to face challenges when we least expect it. So be sure that you're getting the things that you need so you'll always be able to take care of yourself and your family no matter what the future brings. If you liked my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.